Pokémon Colosseum and Pokémon XD Gale of Darkness are two fully fledged Pokémon RPGs released for the Nintendo GameCube in the early to mid-2000s. Both are games that hold a very special place in my heart, and XD is one of my favorite games of all time. Now, despite the hundreds of hours I've put into these games, neither are games that I've 100% completed. Today, that's going to change. Well, for one of them at least. Today, we complete Pokémon Colosseum. But what does completing Pokémon Colosseum even mean? What factors are going into this playthrough to constitute 100%? Well, the easy way to quantify it would be to catch and purify every shadow Pokémon in the game, but that's not enough for me. This isn't your typical Pokémon game where you can catch hundreds of creatures. There's only 52 usable Pokémon in the game, and while there's no Pokédex, I am going to evolve every one of them. There's also some side quests we're going to have to complete, the big one being Mount Battle, a 100 battle gauntlet that increases in level and difficulty the higher you go. There's also 4 Colosseums in the main game, comprised each of 4 sets of 4 battles, netting you a special TM after you complete each set of battles, so we're going to have to do all of those. But don't worry, there's still a lot more battling to do. There's a separate battle mode in the game with 6 Colosseums split into singles and doubles, effectively making for 12 Colosseums. And instead of 4 battles each, these Colosseums each have 8 battles, making for 96 battles, some of which are very, very hard. But if you didn't think that 96 was a high enough amount of extra battles to do, first off, what's wrong with you? And second off, we can more than double that number because there is a separate Mount Battle in the battle mode that we have to do. This Mount Battle nets a special Pokemon if you've purified all 48 Shadow Pokemon. So that makes for 196 side mode battles to do. My god. Obviously, there's a lot to get done, so let's just get started and boot up the story mode. Jesus fucking Christ, what a way to start a game. Meet our hero Leech, or his official name, Wes, a very mysterious guy with an absolutely ridiculous motorcycle and some white line across his face. I've never understood what that is. Sunscreen? I don't know. He blows a giant hole in this building in the middle of the desert, snags some machine thing, and takes off with his partner Pokemon, Espeon and Umbreon. Yes, that's right, in Pokemon Colosseum, you start the game with both Espeon and Umbreon, and since this is a 100% run, both of them are going to be permanent team members. Honestly, I'd feel a little bad leaving either of them behind. We arrive at the outskirts stand, the only place for kilometers to fuel up, though those gas prices did recently skyrocket, and really there's no telling why. Here we see 2 very non-suspicious men in a non-suspicious truck with a non-suspicious burlap sack that is very non-suspiciously moving on its own. I'm sure that's nothing, we can probably just ignore that. Inside, we see that our attack on that building has made the news, and as we try to leave, some guy named Willie approaches us and challenges us to a battle. And this is where we get our first taste as to why Colosseum and XD are such unique entries in the Pokemon franchise. For the entire game, you will be partaking in double battles. There won't be a single battle to be seen in this entire adventure. I love this. Double battles allow for so much more strategic thinking and thought-out planning that having an entire game centered around them instead of just having one here or there is such a welcome change of pace. It also allows for the AI to do more interesting tactics. There's a reason that Colosseum is touted as one of, if not the hardest Pokemon game. Now this is a great time to bring up that while I'm playing this game, I have a sacred tome with me. The Brady Games Pokémon Colosseum Strategy Guide. And this battle is where I realized that this book is actually really bad. Like, let's just see what it says about this fight. Trainer Willie's twin Zagzagoons, and we can actually just stop right there. How many errors in these 4 words can you find? I'll give you a second. If you said 2, you're actually wrong because it's 3, and all 3 are localized in the word Zagzagoons. Let's go over them, shall we? 1. The Pokemon's name is Zigzagoon. That's the obvious one. They just flat out spelled it wrong. 2. The official pluralization of any Pokemon name is the same as the singular, such as moose or deer. 2 Zigzagoon is still just Zigzagoon. Now, honestly, I won't fault the book that much for it. Not everybody knows that, but that takes us to number 3. Even if the proper pluralization was Zigzagoons, the apostrophe would still be incorrect. An apostrophe would make it possessive, not plural. The Zigzagoon's tackle attack, blah 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 blah, would be where you would put an apostrophe, not when pluralizing it. So they ended up with 3 errors in one word, and honestly, I'm kind of impressed. Anyway, we'll check back in with the book from time to time, but for now, we're going to Fennec City. As we arrive, we encounter those 2 non-suspicious individuals again, struggling with that burlap sack containing what I assume are just potatoes, probably? But when we confront them, they attack us. Once you crush Folly's Whismur into the ground, they take off, and you get to reap the potatoey rewards of what's in that It's a girl. This is Rui, or as we'll call her, Skirp. She wonders if that guy had any odd Pokemon. Not seemingly, but we should probably go talk to the mayor about this. Now, Skirp's gonna join us for the rest of the adventure, and I'm sure she will never once get in the way. Approaching the mayor's house, we meet an absolute behemoth of a man who I'm sure has no evil intentions in this game. I mean, look at him. That's a very trustworthy-looking gentleman if I've ever seen one. The mayor, Escade, hasn't the foggiest idea of what's going on, but says that we should go check out the stadium while we're in town, so we'll head over there. At the stadium, we're confronted by a couple Team Snag'em goons who give us our character's backstory. We are an ex-Team Snag'em member who blew up the Team Snag'em base to get out with a mini snag machine, a contraption used to steal Pokemon from trainers. Now, Skirp can't believe this. The man she met 5 minutes ago is not everything she hoped he would be. But she actually gets over it pretty quick and figures we ought to go get some Pokeballs. Now, let's check in with the book, shall we? The Ori region doesn't have wild Pokemon, and as such, the store here in Fennec has no reason to sell Pokeballs. Now, the book tells us to return to the outskirts stand to buy some, and while that is true, it's missing a pretty important step. If you try to leave town, Skirp will remark that we need to get Pokeballs, and will not let you leave town at all. What you have to do is talk to this random guy on the 2nd floor of the Pokemon who mentions the outskirts stand selling Pokeballs, and then you can go there and buy them. This had me stuck for like an hour the first time I played this as a child, and the book doesn't even mention it. And there's a couple other errors in the book up to this point that I want to point out. So they explain Umbreon and Espeon's starting moveset. They say the taunt used on an opponent's Pokemon forces it to repeat its last attack, which is actually Encore. Taunt disallows the use of status moves. It also says that Espeon's Reflect can be stacked up to 6 times, which is false, and while the description for Snatch here is technically correct, it fails to mention that it only works on status moves, not just any move. It also refers to Team Snag'em as Team Snatch'em, despite the fact that it immediately calls them the right name right afterwards. And let's get back to the story. Now that we have access to Pokeballs, let me tell you about something else I'm adding to this playthrough for no discernible reason. I will be catching every Pokemon in just Pokeballs. No Great Balls, no Ultra Balls, no variants, just simple red Pokeballs. I'm sure this decision won't cause me any pain in the near future. Heading back to Fennec, we learn that those suspicious individuals, as well as a few other weird people, are at the mayor's house, so we need to go back there, where we run into one of the greatest video game characters ever created, Mirror B. Bathe in his radiance, bask in his glory. We learn that they want Skirp because she can see something she's not supposed to see, and so we get attacked. And this is where we learn of Pokémon Colosseum's main mechanic, Shadow Pokémon. Trudley here has this Makuhita that Skirp says has a dark aura surrounding it. It even attacks the player character. She says we need to use that snag machine to save it, and so we do. This is actually a guaranteed capture in this game, so if you ever killed it as a kid, I'm sorry, but you were pretty dumb. Now that we have Makuhita, the 3 colorful grunts leave, and we're left with the decision. Each grunt blocks a different entrance to Fennec, and depending on who we fight, we can catch either a Shadow Bayleaf, Shadow Crocona, or Shadow Kulava. Now, this is a very difficult decision to make, and who am I kidding? It's Bayleaf. It's always Bayleaf. I fucking love the Chikorita line. It's literally my favorite starter line in the entire franchise, and Chikorita gets so much shit all the time. I'm gonna prove that Bayleaf, Meganium, they're a good Pokemon, so we're going with Bayleaf. Here's a story. As a kid, I didn't realize this was a picking your starter moment. When you leave the mayor's house, Verde is just kind of standing right there. So I always just thought that this was the next fight we had to do. It didn't occur to me until embarrassingly late that the other 2 were around the city and you could get any of the JoJo starters. But who cares? I love Meganium. We're going with my favorite starter anyway. Now we have to follow Mirror B to Pyrite Town. But first we have to stop at the construction site. Okay, we're done there. Let's head to Pyrite. Immediately, it's evident that Pyrite is a little sketchier than Fennec. I mean, our first introduction to the town is a guy who's talking to a cop about how he didn't do anything, and muttering to himself that he ain't gonna snitch. In the middle of town, we have Dual Square, which, oh, so close game, that's actually a circle. This is where Skirp saw that strange Pokemon, and that's our hint that maybe we should fight these people. Dual Square has a total of 6 Pokemon for us to catch. Basically, you could fill out your entire team here. There's Flaffy or Quagsire, which are both just very good Pokemon. You could pick up Noctowl or Skiploom, which are excellent status setters in a game where Shadow Pokemon can actually knock themselves out. Sleep is incredibly helpful in this game. In Dual Square, you can also catch Slugma. Balls.
Yeah, so I was gonna do this thing where, like, I look in the camera and say balls, and then, like, the confetti comes down, and, like, party streamers and everything, because I made, like, a really funny original joke, but I forgot to record the other angle for that, so this is what you get now.
The last of the Pokemon you can catch here is Mischievous, which you might not think is a very good choice, but if you wanted to use a ghost type on your team, Mischievous is the only one in the game. Seriously, there are no other obtainable ghost types in the entire story. And remember, this is Generation 3, so Miss Magius doesn't even exist yet. But honestly, Mischievous isn't even that bad of a choice. I mean, the AI can be kind of dumb at times and attack it with moves that don't affect it at all. And it comes with Levitate, so it'll synergize really well with anything on your team that uses Earthquake. With Colosseum's limited options and double battle focused gameplay, Mischievous goes from a questionable at best choice to actually pretty decent and usable. After we clear out Dual Circle by putzing around Pyrite Town, we can learn that apparently if you win a Colosseum match, you can get an odd Pokemon like Kale did, that guy who we met when we arrived here. So we could go to him for more info. Obviously, since this is Pokemon, he battles us, and oh my god, he has a Furret, Shadow Furret, you can catch Furret. Oh my god, who doesn't love Furret? Oh. Again, Colosseum has limited options, so I don't think Furret would actually be a bad choice. Just make sure you save before and make sure it has Keen Eye instead of Runaway, as without wild Pokemon, Runaway is literally useless. After beating Kale, he confirms to us that Mirror B is in fact giving out Shadow Pokemon to Colosseum winners, and we get a cutscene. Aw, man! The big dude is evil? Oh, can't believe I was wrong on that one. So we gotta enter a Colosseum challenge. And as we head over there, a worker stumbles out of some building saying that a gear has been stolen and now the Colosseum has no power. Apparently this Silva guy, who's right hand to this Duking guy who runs the Colosseum, has up and taken the gear because he's frustrated that Duking won't do anything about what's happening with the Colosseum. So we go to the construction lot, we bring it back, and Duking asks us to enter the Colosseum challenge and win and see what's going on. After winning, we're beckoned to a shady building by these Cypher peons. That's the name of the team here, Cypher. I think it's pretty unceremoniously told to us just through this guy's trainer class, but they recognize who we are. So instead of giving us a Shadow Pokemon, they give us a battle against a Shadow Pokemon. a Shadow Yanma. Terrible, bad, no good, don't use it, man. Yanmega doesn't exist yet. Yanma has like no redeeming qualities. It's a bad Pokemon. Just don't bother. But after this fight, we learn that Duking's hands have been metaphorically tied because Cypher has kidnapped his Plusle and are threatening to lynch it if he doesn't let them kind of do their thing. So we have to go save it for them. There's also a binder here which tells us about Hyper Mode. And you know what? Let's just talk about Shadow Pokemon. A Shadow Pokemon is a Pokemon that's had the door to its heart artificially closed. How one does that? I have no idea. These Pokemon cannot gain experience and start with only one move, Shadow Rush, a physical move that deals recoil damage, and thus any Shadow Pokemon can knock itself out. When you use Shadow Rush, there's a chance the Shadow Pokemon will instead enter Hyper Mode. This takes up that Pokemon's turn. If a Pokemon is in Hyper Mode, it will likely disobey any order that isn't Shadow Rush, and you can't use items on it, so no mid-battle heals. However, when in Hyper Mode, the critical hit chance of Shadow Rush goes up to like 90%, so there is benefit to it. To exit Hyper Mode, you need to use the command that replaces Run in this game, Call, or on very rare occasions, a Shadow Pokemon will simply exit Hyper Mode itself. I wasn't able to get that on video, but I actually did see it in some off-screen grinding, and it was the first time I had ever seen it. I had no idea that could happen. I went and looked it up. But calling a Hyper Mode Shadow Pokemon returns it back to normal and lowers the heart gauge a bit, the 5 bars where the experience bar normally is. As that lowers through battling and walking around and etc, they gain access to more of their moves, their nature is revealed, and they can start banking experience points in friendship, and will receive all of those when it's purified. That's basically all we need to know about Shadow Pokemon for now. Thankfully, with that explanation, we've blown through all of the Shadow Pokemon-less trainers in this building, and we get up to the roof where we can catch 2 more, a Mantine and a Remoraid. Now, for some reason, the Remoraid is at level 20, which I have never once understood. It makes Remoraid really hard to use since it's way behind anything else you have, and it's going to be stuck at level 20 for the foreseeable future. That said, I actually really like Octillery, so Remoraid's going to be the 4th member of the team. Now that we've rescued Silva from these 2, we can head into the Pyrite Cave where another gauntlet of battles await us, where we can catch 4 more Shadow Pokemon. Quillfish, which sucks. Meditite, which isn't a bad choice, it's a pretty solid Pokemon with a great ability in Pure Power. Dunsparce, a single-stage Johto Pokemon that got better later in the series. And Swablu, one of only 2 Dragon types in the game when it evolves. Altaria is another Pokemon I really like but don't get to use much, and so it's going to be the 5th permanent team member. Finally, we reach the end of the cave where we confront Mir B, who has one of the greatest battle themes of all time. Now this guy has a great variety of Pokemon. He's got a Ludicolo, a Ludicolo, a Ludicolo, and a Ludicolo. Surprisingly, the man does not have a Shadow Ludicolo. Instead, he has a Shadow Sudowoodo. It's another decent choice of Pokemon to use. It comes with Rock Slide, which hits both opponents in a double battle, and defensive Pokemon have more use in a game where it's all double battles. Nevertheless, we catch it, save Plusle, and head back to Pyrite, where Plusle tells us that it wants to come along with us on our adventure. And its level 13 ass goes straight to the box where it'll never see the light of day again. Apparently, at one point in development, a Shadow Minun was planned, and that would have been really good, because Plusle and Minun were literally created for double battles. They each have an ability that boosts their special attack if they're ever on the field at the same time. Alas, that did not happen, leaving Plusle as mediocre as it's always been. Now I think that this is a great time to check back in with the book. Each new section shows you what Pokemon are upcoming to catch, and in Fennec City here, it shows us a Chikorita instead of a Bayleaf. And on the next page, when it shows the 3 teams of the Grunts in Fennec, they each show a Muck instead of a Grimer. This is actually a problem that persists through the entire book. Anytime the book says Grimer, it shows a Muck, and when it says Muck, it shows a Grimer. And a few pages later, while not technically an error, it tells you to go back to Fennec to heal, and then to head to Pyrite Colosseum, but the Pyrite Colosseum has a healing machine you can use even when the power's out, so there's really no point in doing that. Anyway, let's get back to the story. As we leave Pyrite Town, we learn that up north in Agate Village is where we need to go next to save these Shadow Pokemon. And Scrump remembers that actually, she was on the way to Agate to see her grandparents when she got kidnapped. So we're gonna head there. As we arrive, we're finally able to get to the name Raider and name our Espeon and Umbreon, which shall be known as Xavier and Crescent, respectively. We also grab an experience share and we meet Skirmp's grandparents. Her grandpa was apparently some mythical trainer back in the day, but uh-oh! Cypher's attacking the Relic Stone, a relic which is a stone that is said to have some connection to Celebi, and a kind of special power that purifies Shadow Pokemon. Cypher wants to destroy this thing, so there's no avenue to purifying Shadow Pokemon. Apparently Egan runs right through the guard grunts and fights off against Scrub with his legendary Pikachu. Could this be Ash? Nah, I don't think so. Now he gets absolutely fucking mollywopped by Scrub's Shadow Hitmontop, so we have to step in and take care of it. Hitmontop was this close to making it onto the team, and I kind of wish it did, because I learned later it has an adamant nature, which is, like, perfect for Hitmontop. But whatever, Hitmontop is not the final team member. After that commotion and some busy work, we're finally able to purify our Shadow Pokemon. And the only things we can purify this time are Flaffy, who isn't even permanently on the team, and Bayleaf, who gets back all of the experience he's accrued as a Shadow Pokemon, gains 4 levels, evolves into a Meganium, and shall henceforth be referred to as Candy Pop. And also Remoraid, who does not have nearly enough experience to evolve, but I do name it Octillery, because of a dumb joke I had made on the podcast a couple weeks prior. Hey, speaking of, did you know there's this really cool Pokemon anime rewatch podcast called To Kill a Delibird? It's mine, and you should go check it out wherever podcasts are available, and also here on YouTube. So subscribe if you're interested in that weird shit, or this weird shit. Something about viewers aren't subscribed or something. Oh, forget no, man. So now Cypher has taken over Mount Battle, so we gotta go there and deal with that. Now, Mount Battle is 100 straight battles of pure agony, but thankfully right now we only have to do 10, as Cypher has only taken over 10% of Mount Battle. Right going, guys. During these fights, Octillery evolves into Octillery. Now, my main gripe with Octillery in Colosseum is that it's actually not going to be able to learn Surf, as there's no HMs in this game, so it's going to be stuck with Bubble Beam and Octazooka as its best water moves. But Octillery gets a lot of coverage moves, which is really why I wanted it anyway, so it'll be fine. Also, about halfway through these battles, Swablu is ready to purify, so we go purify him, name him Lentil, and he actually does evolve by the end of this section. But now comes the boss for Mount Battle, the big bad Tarzan man, Admin Dakeem. And this fight is where we really start to see how Colosseum can ramp up its difficulty. Dakeem's main strategy is that almost all of his Pokemon have both Protect and Earthquake, so he can alternate which Pokemon uses Earthquake and which Pokemon uses Protect, landing a massive move on your side of the field while completely protecting his own. It's a very dangerous strategy if you don't have any counters for it. These boss battles also don't have set leads that the boss uses, which I think is really cool. You can't just plan it out from turn 1. You have to be able to adapt. Shipping our way through Dakeem's team, we come face to face with his Shadow Pokemon. It's Entei, a full-on legendary level 40 Pokemon, the highest level we've seen so far. Unfortunately, Golem Earthquaked Entei down to 1 HP, and then Entei Shadow Rushed itself to death, so we're gonna have to try that one again. As a reminder, we're only using regular Pokeballs, so we might be here a while. Our general strategy is to use Sing to put Entei to sleep and whittle it down, leave some room for Shadow Rush Recoil to not knock it out, and just chuck Pokeballs. Between the 2 attempts, it actually only took 13 balls, which was less than I expected. Colosseum and XD actually boosted the catch rate of all the catchable Pokemon, but this was still much faster than I thought it would be. Dakeem gets away by doing the world's greatest standing long jump, and Vander rewards us with the Time Flute, which is exactly what they were after. Time Flute allows for one Pokemon to be instantly purified at the Relic Stone by summoning Celebi. There are 3 Time Flutes in this game, and we're going to get all 3 of them, but I'm not going to use any of them because I think purifying every Shadow Pokemon and still having 3 Time Flutes remaining is very funny. Now that commotion is over, I feel like taking on one of these side quest things, so we're gonna head to Fennec City and take on the Pre-Gym. Ore doesn't have traditional gym battles, but they do have what they call the Prestige Precept Center, or the Pre-Gym. The pre-gym can be completed as soon as you have 6 Pokemon on your team, and the first 4 battles leading up to the boss are actually pretty easy and could be done at any point up to now. However, I strongly recommend waiting until a later point in the game to fight against Justy himself. I have vivid memories of being a child and fighting Justy as soon as possible and wanting to rip my hair out because of how frustrating Justy is. Not only is his team in the 40s, which is way higher than the trainers in the gym, but Justy is the worst kind of Pokemon trainer because he loves evasion strats. Literally, his entire team of 6 have double team in their moveset, and half of them use Sandstorm to activate their Sand Veil abilities, which raises evasion in a sandstorm. This battle is absolutely infuriating, and if I were to ever 100% this game again, I would do this as like the last possible thing I do, just to crush Justy into the ground for all the torment he's put me through over the years. At least upon defeat, he gives you the TM for return, which is, I mean, a pretty good move if you have a normal type. I don't, so I'll hold on to it for later. We can also grab the strategy memo, which is like this game's Pokedex, but not really a Pokedex. I don't know, I'm just grabbing it because it's something to grab. To continue the story, we must return to Egan, who is very excited that we have a time flute we'll never use, and he gives us his email, which is the trigger that lets us go to the mystery lab. That we won't actually do anything at because we get an email that takes us to Pyrite Town to talk to some of Mirab's goons who have been arrested. We let ourselves into a jail cell and steal a key off of a sleeping woman. Great security in this station, guys. This key allows us to use the elevator in the Pyrite building to get to the Under, a very shady place underneath Pyrite Town led by one Lady Venus. Apparently, a spy has shown up in the Under, so we should probably keep an eye out for that. But we pick up some machine part thing from some kid, and we get a cutscene. Oh, you're telling me Venus is also a part of Cypher? No way! After watching some news, we take this part down to the Kids Grid, a hacking group made up of these little children, which is quite something, I must say. And then we hear that the spy has been captured. Oh, whew. I guess it wasn't us after all. It was Silva again. He gives us the R-Disc, which is necessary to use this horribly inefficient transportation method down here in the Under, and if we talk to the 2 guards guarding his cell, we can fight them and catch a Shadow Pokemon. Now, we've been hit with a nice little sequence of Shadow Pokemon lately. Sudowoodo, Hitmontop, Entei, so of course we would expect this trend to continue, right? Except it doesn't. The Shadow's a Ledian. Ledian, it sucks, it's terrible. It's a horrible Pokemon, which honestly breaks my heart because I love its design. I really, really wish Ledian was better, but it's just not. And this is where one of my problems with Colosseum kind of rears its head. I feel like the pacing of Shadow Pokemon is totally off. I mean, you start with a ton in Pyrite, then you got this gauntlet in the building with nothing, then you get a few spattered around the cave, which is nice, then Sudowoodo, and then Hitmontop pretty quick after, and then another gauntlet of battles to get to Entei, and then there's only Ledian separating Entei and Suicune. There's only one Shadow Pokemon separating Dakeem from our next boss in Venus. We've had like very little gameplay since Entei, 1 Shadow Pokemon, and now we go into the Venus fight to catch Shadow Suicune. Now, while Dakeem used Protect Earthquake strategies, Venus is a little more annoying. All of her regular Pokemon come with Attract, and her team is split evenly by gender, so you can't go in with just a male team and completely circumvent that strategy. In terms of trainer strategies, it is far more annoying than Dakeem's, but still less annoying than Justy. Anyway, not to bury the lead, but Venus does in fact have a Shadow Suicune. Our main strategy with this is to use Lentil to put it to sleep, and then use Octobillery's Octazooka on it as much as we can. Octazooka does very little damage to Suicune, but it has the ability to lower its accuracy. If I can prevent Suicune from knocking itself out with Shadow Rush, that gives me plenty of opportunity to throw Pokeballs at it. Unfortunately, I don't get this strategy off on the first try, so we have to run it back. But only after we do a couple areas of Mount Battle because Octobillery desperately needed levels. Second try, I start with Reflect to do some more defensive action and start Octazooking. I'm able to get 2 accuracy drops on it, but Suicune's pressure only lets me use it 5 times. Unfortunately, even with all that, Suicune kills itself with recoil, so for the first time, we need to take a third shot at a Shadow Pokemon. Third try, we're able to get 3 accuracy drops on it, and after 33 total Pokeballs across 3 attempts, we finally catch Suicune. Venus makes a mad dash for it, and of course, we chase after her. And now we're past the Shadow Pokemon drought because we're hit with 4 in a row to catch. We start off with Gligar, an underwhelming single-stage Johto Pokemon that doesn't get better until a future installment. There's a lot of these in this game. Seriously, if this was Gen 4, so many of these Pokemon would be more usable. Now, the next Shadow is an important one. This is Stantler. Now, Stantler isn't the best Pokemon, but in Colosseum, it comes with 2 very useful traits. First, it comes with Hypnosis, and I already have Sing on Lentil, but having 2 Sleep Setters is really good in a game where all the catchable Pokemon can knock themselves out. And second, Stantler has Intimidate for its ability, which in a double battle hits both opponents. Starting the battle with 2 attack drops on the opposing side is incredibly helpful. I think with that, Colosseum takes Stantler from something that's like kind of average to something that is really usable, especially because it can learn a lot of TMs to really round out your team. And because of that, Stantler is going to round out our team and become the final member. Next one is Piloswine, a totally usable Pokemon, but I never used it before Gen 4, because without Mamoswine, it just feels incomplete to me. Piloswine does not feel fully evolved, and I just can't help but wish I had Mamoswine when I see it. At the bottom of our stairs is our last Shadow Pokemon, Sneasel. Now, Sneasel I don't think was a particularly bad Pokemon before Weavile, but it was certainly done a disservice by its stats and typing. Sneasel is a strong physical attacker whose types were both special before Gen 4. If you didn't know, prior to Generation 4, what determined a move's physical or special status was its type. All of these types were physical moves, and all of these types were special. Sneasel's Dark and Ice typing meant it couldn't have any physical stab moves because both of its types were special. Because of that, I just really can't recommend it, but I'm sure someone could find a way to use it. Anyway, we chased Venus through the subway to that basement of that lab we were barely at. They kind of blow it up so we can't access it, but we grab a couple keys, go back the same way we came, and now we can access that lab. Now at this point, I'm realizing that with how I'm playing this game, these other Shadow Pokemon that aren't on my team are never going to get purified. So between streams, I take advantage of a little thing I call glitch walking. I think there's a few places in the game you can do this, but if you go to this little alcove in Agate, unplug your controller, hold up on it while you plug it back in, and then release, your character will walk into this notch indefinitely. I'm pretty confident that this is not as fast as actually walking, as he's moving pretty slowly, but it's a way to purify Pokemon without you actually having to be there. A lot of Pokemon are purified this way, and as such, my playtime is pretty inflated. It was a pretty common occurrence between streams to just glitch walk for a few hours while I did other things, because in Colosseum, there's really no other way to purify them aside from actually using all of them, which I'm clearly not doing. Something else we've been doing at the start of streams is doing a couple areas of Mountain Battle, not only to get some levels, but to make it so we don't have to do the whole thing in one go. If you do areas 1 through 100 in one go without changing any of your party Pokemon, they each get an Earth Ribbon. But I'm not counting that because I don't want to do it. I already have to do it all again in battle mode, so this is the only conceivable thing in the game I couldn't be fucking bothered to do. This is a great time to mention that I streamed this whole thing live over on twitch.tv/HydraLeech, where if you're seeing this pretty soon after it comes out, I'm currently doing the same thing with Pokemon XD. Again, for the first time ever, despite it being one of my favorite games of all time. You can even hit the VODs up of the playthrough on the VOD channel, links in the description, or in the card wherever the hell it is on the screen right now. Anyway, we head to that mystery lab now where we learn that Cypher is actually starting to pack things up and ship out, so we gotta act quick. It's a good thing we didn't walk in place for 3 hours before. That said, there's still a number of Shadow Pokemon to be caught here, starting with Aipom, an underwhelming single-stage Johto Pokemon that's normally way too hard to catch, but this time, thankfully, it only took 1 ball. Now, there is a goal in this place to collect 3 DNA samples, which, while not technically required, it does eliminate a bunch of guessing and checking later on. This dead end allows us to get the Down Saint Key, which gives us access to the rest of the building and the rest of the Shadow Pokemon. These include Murkrow, an underwhelming single-stage Gen 2 Pokemon that didn't get better until later in the series. Fortress, the best physical wall in the game up to this point. Seriously, Fortress is a pretty good Pokemon in this game. With the double battle focused gameplay, Fortress is very usable. Ariados, an underwhelming 2-stage Gen 2 Pokemon that never did get better. And Granbull, another decent choice, a good hard-hitting normal type with Intimidate. After analyzing our DNA samples, this fucko sets off a blaring red alarm and tells us we can't leave. Except we can, and I will, multiple times. I never brought it up, but you can only save at PCs in Colosseum, which is a really dumb thing that they did. Thankfully, they remedied this in XD. And now we finally encounter Vibrava, an excellent choice, as Flygon is a great Pokemon that learns Stab, Earthquake, and has Levitate. So if you have a second Earthquaker on your team, they'll have great synergy together. It's never a bad idea to add a Flygon to your team. Now, we're a little underleveled for the next boss fight, so we're gonna take care of some side things and clean some things up. Starting with using that new U-disc we found to go up from the under and get a second Time Flute that, again, we will not be using. Let me do a couple rounds of the Fennec Colosseum and some areas of Mount Battle, and this shit is just repetitive as hell. I'm not gonna go into detail on it. Jumping ahead a couple hours, we finally return to the lab where that alarm is still blaring. I cannot imagine being an employee of Cypher. Talk about terrible working conditions, am I right? But finally, we can face off against the final Cypher admin, Ein. Now, Dakim had Earthquake Protect strats, and Venus had Attract strats. Ein's main strategy is Rain Dance and Thunder. Ein likes to stall you out with Confusion and Toxic, while he sets up a Rain Dance to make sure that the Thunder a couple of his Pokemon have is perfectly accurate. Considering that one of those Pokemon is Shadow Raku, yeah, I would say that's pretty dangerous. I try to set up some Sunny Day, but they just Rain Dance it away immediately. I mean, at least it takes up their turn. Eventually, Raikou comes out, and Ein has no more Rain Senders, so once the rain's gone, Thunder won't be nearly as much of an issue. But Golbat is proving to be a little bit of a bitch. It's just constantly confuse-raying me. I can't get away from it. When it's down to just Raikou, I want to get some screens up, but of course it hits Thunder immediately. So we just need to get it back to sleep. Fuck. Okay, we can get it to sleep with Altaria. God damn it. I don't like healing during battles, but I don't want to do this battle again, so fuck it, we'll just use some revives. Desperately need Stantler to put this thing to sleep. Jesus, fuck. Okay, we'll heal again. Stop hitting Thunder! Okay, we've got some momentum back. Let's set up a light screen. We'll put it to sleep. Oh, okay, it only took 4 Pokeballs. That works, I guess. I'm thoroughly impressed. And after this fight, we get the TM for Earthquake, which I put on Candy Pop. And now, finally, Stantler is able to be purified. So we'll go open her heart, and we shall name her Vixen. Now, the special move that Stantler gets from being purified is Astonish. An astonishingly bad move, so we'll replace that with Return, and with the Silk Scarf, once she's at max happiness, that's gonna hit pretty hard. With a fully evolved and fully purified team, we're heading into the late game, where we're actually a little underleveled, so we'll spend the rest of the day taking on some Colosseum matches in Mount Battle areas. The Fennec Stadium is just 4 rounds of unevolved level 40 Pokemon, so the experience is not what it could be, but it does give us the TMs for Rain Dance, Sunny Day, Giga Drain, and Solar Beam, the last of which we'll be putting on to Candy Pop, who already has Sunny Day. Now, Meganium doesn't have the best offensive stats, but if it can just power out Solar Beams, that's gonna do some good damage. I also finally give Umbreon Toxic through TM, which took me forever. I don't know why it took me so long, considering Toxic is like one of Umbreon's best moves, but who knows. Now, while we go through some more Mount Battle, it's been a while since we touched on the book, so let's check out what's been wrong up to this point. When you get the experience share, the book says you still can't use this to make Shadow Pokemon gain experience, and while that's technically correct, they can still bank experience to gain upon purification, so while it's not wrong, it is kind of misleading. Small little formatting error here on page 44, nothing to really write home about. Once you get the Attract TM after the Venus fight, it claims Attract makes a Pokemon of the opposite gender stop attacking your Pokemon, when in reality there's only a chance each turn of that happening. On the staircase, it claims that Masquerain is a water type. It's not, only Surskit is. In this blurb here from writer Nellis is a lot of stuff emblematic of how they kind of write this crap. They say to blast Corsola away with electric, when grass is quad effective. They say Seviper is extremely vulnerable to psychic when it's only 2 times weak. And they say any attacks work on normal type Loudred. That last one's just false, ghost type moves won't work. But the way they say Seviper is extremely vulnerable to psychic moves annoys me, because super effective is super effective. Psychic isn't more powerful on poison than, say, fighting, and quad weaknesses are never noted in the book like this. For example, here, in the first round of the Under Colosseum, it says that Electric works decently on Seadra, and Celio is also somewhat vulnerable to Electric, when both are weak to Electric in the exact same way that Seviper is weak to Psychic. It's an incredibly confusing way of writing type matchups. It says with Psychic on Espeon, it won't have to worry about Pokemon aside from Dark attacks and strong normals. What about normal attacks should worry Espeon? It does the same thing to it as Steel or Grass. And it fails to mention the Ghost weakness. God damn, it's annoying! It also fails to mention that Ground, Rock, and Steel types are immune to the chip damage of Sandstorm. It refers to Rain Dance as Rain Storm. It says Dark attacks deal with Medicham nicely, but they're actually neutral on it, because fighting resists Dark. What a mess. Now, I had some ulterior motives for continuing up Mount Battle. Using our Poke Coupons, I finally get the TM for Flamethrower, which I have been dying to put on Bill. Finally, we have some ice coverage. Now it's time for the late game. The construction lot we were at the start of the game has now become the Realgem Tower, where our story will conclude. Starting off the area, we have to fight Mirror B one more time, who this time doesn't even have his own theme. He just has the boring-ass Cypher admin music. What's even the point? Why are we here? What are we doing? Now, if you fail to catch Sudowoodo in the Pyrite Cave, this is your next opportunity to do so. But if you already caught it, he does have a replacement Pokemon, which the book totally fails to mention. Now, Mirror B isn't the only Cypher admin we have to rematch. We have to fight all of them again. Yes, including Ein, who was like literally, I think, the last story trainer we fought, and we had to do it again. Weird choice, but whatever. Again, this is your opportunity to catch the legendary beasts if you missed them the first time, but they do have non-shadow replacements if you snagged them already. But just because the admins don't have shadow Pokemon for us to catch doesn't mean it's completely devoid of them here in Realgem Tower. We got 2 more. In fact, we have 2 massive powerhouses of shadow Pokemon to catch. It's Sunflora and Delibird. Look, I like Sunflora, and Delibird is like one of my favorite Gen 2 Pokemon. I mean, my podcast is named after it. But even I can admit that these are 2 complete wet blankets of shadow Pokemon here. Even if you had an empty slot on your team, why the fuck would you add either of these to it? These 4 admin fights reward us each with an ID badge. All 4 of them get us into the next area, but we're not going to go do that yet. We get an email from Egan, which is cut off because he's a complete fucking boomer, so we gotta go see what he wants, and actually, he gives us a Master Ball. But we ain't using that shit, it's going in the PC. The second item on our to-do list is actually an interesting one. There's a secret optional boss in the game that you can only fight if you haven't beaten it, and it takes place at the end of the Pyrite Cave, and in order to get to it, you gotta fight all of the required trainers again. I don't know why they made them all automatically challenge you again just to get to one boss. Admittedly, it's a pretty good boss, but is it worth all these extra fights? I don't know, man. At the end of the cave, we're greeted by Miracle Bee, Mirror Bee's wannabe protege, whose theme is Mirror Bee's theme, but sped up and pitched up, which is absolutely incredible. Now, Miracle Bee doesn't have a shadow Pokemon, but what he does have is a pathetic excuse for an afro that he's trying to grow. I don't know why anyone would want an afro like Mirror Bee anyway. I mean, the upkeep would be hell on earth, not to mention the main character energy it shows. I mean, you walk into a room and everyone's gonna think you're an idiot, so... Anyway, we do some more Colosseum matches, getting the Focus Bunch and Hail TMs, very important stuff, I know. And before we go into the final area, we have one more fight to do, but this guy has a Shadow Heracross. Heracross is a fantastic Pokemon, and if you still have an empty slot on your team, this is an easy recommendation. When we enter the main area of Realgem Tower, we are told that we're the 1000th entrant. Oh my god, what an honor. This is incredible. It's also a farce. The guy fights us. And he doesn't even have a shadow Pokemon, so who cares? In fact, none of the trainers in this room have a shadow Pokemon, but you do get the opportunity to fight against the grunt you chose in Fennec at the beginning of the game, who has the shadow starter if you missed it. That's the only interesting thing here. Our good friend Silva is undercover as an elevator guard here, doing absolutely fuck all. But going up, we meet formally with Nazcour, the head of Cypher, who welcomes us to Realgum Tower and invites us to participate in the Colosseum battle, giving us an opportunity to take him down and destroy Cypher. But first, we come face to face with the Team Snag'em leader, Gonzap, who lets us know that Cypher and Team Snag'em have been working together this whole time. I guess this is all a lot bigger than we thought. Thankfully, we can stop his involvement with a quick Pokemon battle against him and his Shadow Skarmory, another great Pokemon I could not blame you for using, though it did take forever to get into the wall. And then I just didn't really feel like being in the game that day, so I took out another area mount battle and called it a stream. Between streams, I completed 5 of the 12 Colosseum matches, and then we went into Area 9 of Mount Battle, and then I thought, fuck it, let's just do Area 10. We're here anyway. In the story mode, when you get to Area 100, you finally get that third time flute that I won't be using. And so we face off against the Mount Battle Master Somek, and we lose. Ooh. It's actually a tough fight when you're under-leveled and have 1 revive. So we're gonna have to come back to that one later. Continuing some cleanups, we finish up the rest of the Pyrite Town Colosseum matches, and now let's go beat the game. In preparation, I buy another like 99 Pokeballs because Lord knows I'm gonna need them. The end game consists of another Colosseum match of 4 battles, each with their own shadow Pokemon. First fight pits us up against some normal types, giving us the ability to capture Shadow Miltank, another great Pokemon that was actually pretty easy to catch. Battle 2 is against some dark types and gets us Absol, a Pokemon that I really like but is pretty hampered in Gen 3 because of the physical special split not being a thing yet. We're also not healed in between fights, which really adds to the challenge, and I like that a lot. I feel like they don't really do that kind of thing anymore. But we also do accidentally kill Absol, so we'll have to come back for that later. The first Pokemon I didn't catch it all in its first opportunity, and honestly, it kind of hurts a little bit. Battle 3 is against some fire Pokemon, revealing Houndoom as the shadow here, another great Pokemon. This Colosseum match is full of great shadow Pokemon, and this one we do catch. Final battle in this gauntlet puts us up against some grass types, and the final shadow of this section, Tropius. An underwhelming end to this streak of shadow Pokemon, but I do like Tropius. I just wish it were better. Finally, we have come face to face with the head of Cypher, Nazcour, who we met at the beginning of the game, and now we finally get to battle. This battle is so intense that there isn't any music to it. The only sounds are your Pokemon sounds and the sounds of the crowd cheering. I also gaslit the co-host of my podcast who was in chat into thinking that there was music, but it just wasn't coming through on his end, which was just a glorious stream moment. It's a tough fight that's capped off with a very powerful shadow Pokemon, Metagross, a pseudo-legendary Pokemon with a low catch rate, and I catch it in the first ball. No fucking way! First ball! That was a little anticlimactic, but oh well. Oh, the mayor of Fennec is here. Oh, interesting. Okay. Oh, he's evil and can fly now. Oh, he's the head of Cypher. Okay. Well, I guess we have one more fight to do. Now, where Nazcour didn't have a theme, Evis has an incredible theme. This theme rips so much ass. This fight also rips ass as a final boss. Not only is it 6 powerful Pokemon, but there's some real strategy going on here. If both of Evis's Slowking and Slacking are on the field at the same time, Slowking will use Skill Swap on Slacking, removing Truant from it entirely. If you didn't know, Slacking has legendary-like stats, but is brought down by its ability Truant, which makes it attack only every other turn. If you remove Truant from it, Slacking becomes an absolute monster on the field. I love this from the development team. A real strategy that makes the battle way harder that can only be done in a double battle. Fucking chef's kiss. Jesus. Anyway, we take down 5 of the 6 of the team, and it's time for the ultimate shadow Pokemon. They call it the ultimate Shadow Pokemon, so it's gotta be something real special. Perhaps something that's on the box. We got a couple Pokemon we haven't seen yet, so it's gonna be Tyranitar. It's not on the box. What the fuck? Tyranitar? Really? Not one of these? Tyranitar's not on the box. Kyogre and Groudon are on the box. Not Tyranitar. Where the fuck are my Kyogre and Groudon? Sure, they'll come up later. Stupid box art. Misleading box art. Whatever. It doesn't get caught in one ball like Metagross. In fact, it takes quite a bit, and it almost knocks itself out, but I do get it into the ball. Evis is apprehended. He tries to escape, but Deus Ex Ho-Oh thwarts that escape. He is properly arrested, and that's the game. Or at least it would be if there weren't more to do. So we take care of some cleanups, beating Mount Battle for good, going back and catching Shadow Absol, before we get into the actual post-game, which there is some pretty good meat on these bones still. We're summoned to the kids' grid because there's been more reports of Shadow Pokemon. Kale saw something, so fighting him, he gives us the information that some guy's been walking around with a Shadow Crocodile. And this lets us head to a new location, the Snag'em hideout that we blew up at the start of the game. Even some of the Team Snag'em members remember us. Oh, memories, good times, back in the day. Bluno, or Verde or Rosso, depending on which starter you picked at the beginning of the game, is chilling at the end of the Snag'em hideout, still with that level 30 Croconaw, but we can finally catch it now. And then we're told that there's some people in the Under that have some Shadow Pokemon information for us, so we'll go back there. We'll do some Under Colosseum matches first, finish that one up. And this dude with 2 Whale Lord tells us about a guy using a Shadow Quilava out at that Shadow Pokemon lab, which we have to fight our way through again. These rematches do have a purpose. They're your chance to catch these Shadow Pokemon again, and they are replayable until you catch the Shadow Pokemon, I guess even after you catch the Shadow Pokemon. But it's still really annoying once you've caught the Shadow Pokemon to be forced into all these rematches. But no shadows in the game are actually missable, and that's a very important thing to note in this game. We're also hanging out at the end of the lab where Ein was, and we finally catch Quilava, so that's all 3 of the Johto starters. Now rumors are circulating that Snag'em is trying to fix that old Snag'em machine that they have. So, going through there again to Gonzap's room, we can fight off against him in a rematch. Again, chance to catch Shadow Skarmory one more time, but we already did that. And he gives us the D-Disc, allowing for another direction, going down into the Under. But we're not actually done in the Snag'em hideout yet. We still have 2 more Shadow Pokemon to catch. Here by the old Snag'em machine, Biden, yes, his name is Biden.
She knows so long as she was 9.
Has a Shadow Smeargle, and no, none of his Smeargle are shiny. In Gen 2, Smeargle's tail was actually red, and its shiny was green, and that changed in Gen 3. But in Colosseum, Gen 1 and 2 Pokemon reused their Stadium models, so it looks like Smeargle shiny, it's not. And the last Shadow here is the big and bad Ursaring, which, this is a good Pokemon, I like Ursaring a lot. I was really surprised when Ursaluna became a thing. I did not expect Ursaring to get an evolution. Now that we have the D-Disc, we can go to the final Colosseum of the game, the Deep Colosseum, located underneath the Under, and we find some Steel Teeth, which we can give to the old man wandering around up here in the Under, and he gives us the final disc of the game, the L-Disc, which gets us the Amulet Coin, when we're almost completely done with everything in the game. The Deep Colosseum has some of the highest levels in the game, levels that are so high, in fact, the book thinks that they're 20 levels higher than they actually are. Now, in order to catch all the Shadow Pokemon in this game, you don't have to beat the Deep Colosseum 1 time. Don't worry. You don't have to beat it 2 times. You have to beat it 5 times. Each round ends with one of the Cypher admins, Mirabee, Dakim, Venus, Ein, in that order, and this is your repeatable opportunity to catch their Shadow Pokemon if you missed them the first 2 times. If you make your way through 4 Deep Colosseum challenges, you get notified that the Deep King has entered a Colosseum challenge and that you should enter to face off against the Deep King. In our final battle, we are faced off against the Deep King, Agnol himself, who has our final Shadow Pokemon of the game, a Shadow Shuckle, the most defensive Pokemon of them all, and I don't know, it's at the end of the game. I don't know what you're really going to use Shuckle for, but hey, I like Shuckle, it's a cool Pokemon. Well, I guess with the last Shadow Pokemon caught, we can go ahead and sell the rest of our Pokeballs. An email. I attacked the guy running around the fountain in Fennec? I don't remember doing that. Well, let's go talk to him. Oh, another email. Bit saw us attack him with a Togetic. When did I get a Togetic? I don't know what's happening. Why am I getting another email? Go watch TV. Who does that? Fine, I'll go watch the damn TV. Jesus. There have been reports of another Pokemon attack on people. Here's shocking footage of the harrowing attack sent by one of our viewers. This footage was sent in by a brat in the under who declined to reveal his identity. Okay, we'll go to the outskirts stand. I guess we're going back to where this whole adventure began. And look at this guy. He looks just like us. And now we have to battle him. We're battling ourselves. Oh my god. This whole game has been a metaphor. I don't know what for, but I'm sure someone could pull something deep out of that. This fight is actually kind of interesting. You see, when you catch each of the admin's shadow Pokemon, in future rematches, that Pokemon is replaced with something else. Mirabee's Sudowoodo is replaced with Armaldo, Dakim's Entei with Houndoom, Venus's Suicune with Milotic, Ain's Raikou with Manectric, and even Gonzap's Skarmory is replaced by Gyarados. Armaldo, Houndoom, Milotic, Manectric, Gyarados make up 5/6 of our doppelganger's team, it's like you're fighting all of the admins at once, which is really cool. But what's that 6th Pokemon? Well, it's that Togetic, of course, and it's level 20 for some reason. So, I mean, at least it'll be easy to take out. It's a shadow Pokemon. Oh shit, what do I catch this with? I sold all my balls. I've got nothing left in here. I'll have like potions and shit. Oh no. Oh. And that's the story mode. This guy reveals himself as Fane, a Cypher grunt trying to ruin our reputation. And nothing really comes of that. That's it. The story is officially done. But we aren't. We still have a bunch of shadow Pokemon to purify. So I go by 99 Vivid Scents and just start rubbing them on all my Pokemon. These scents work down their heart gauges a little bit at a time, and it takes forever. It takes about 20 seconds for each scent to be used, and I used like 110 of them. So that was over 30 minutes just sitting there, rubbing down my Pokemon, doing nothing else. Now with the story done and all the Pokemon purified, I think it's time to finish up all the errors in the book. Let's see here. In Realgum Tower, it fails to show that Tropius is available. It says Mirabee still has Sudowoodo, but doesn't say that the other admins still have their shadows. They misspell Ninetales, mix up Grimer and Muckmore, we know that. They don't note that Tropius is a shadow Pokemon with the black box like all of the other shadow Pokemon. For Alligator, here's shown instead of a Croconaw twice. Gonzap's levels are inflated like the Deep Colosseum trainers. And the Mount Battle section has some spelling errors, wrong Pokemon, wrong levels, the usual. Battle mode is full of little errors, and I won't point them all out, but it gets some abilities and moves wrong, some types wrong, a lot of that stuff. I probably missed quite a lot going through this, so I scanned the thing and uploaded it to a Google Drive linked in the description. You want to take a look for yourself and find anything that I missed. But we still aren't done! We still have battle mode to do! So like I said at the start, battle mode consists of its own Mount Battle, as well as 6 Colosseum challenges that need to be done in both singles and doubles. So we start with Mount Battle, our second version of it. You can choose to do this single or double battle style. I don't think there is any reason to do this in both. You just do it the one time to get the reward. It also functions in more of the VGC approach, where you see your opponent's team and then each of you pick 3 or 4 Pokemon depending on the format. The trainers in this Mount Battle also match the highest level Pokemon that you're using, so it's always going to be even, but the early areas still use like unevolved Pokemon and stuff, and the quality of the Pokemon ramps up over time. If you're able to get through Mount Battle without changing any of your team members, and you've purified every shadow Pokemon, you are met with a nice reward. A Pokemon, a very special Pokemon. Can you guess what it is? That's right, it's Ho-Oh. Another Pokemon not on the box. Where are these two? Kyogre and Groudon. They are not in the game at all. They are on the box. You cannot get them in the game. I don't know. I don't understand why they did that at all. It makes no sense. Even as a kid, before I beat the game, I was like, I wonder how we're gonna get Kyogre. Do you make a choice at the final battle or something? And then Tyranitar pops out. I'm like, what the fuck? That's not Kyogre. What's going on? The only other way you could get Ho-Oh back in the day of Generation 3 was through an event. So if you're completing a Gen 3 Dex in the modern day, this is the only way to get Ho-Oh. And, you know, with that context in mind, it's not a bad reward. I mean, that battle is a slog to get through. But a Ho-Oh? The only way to get Ho-Oh in Gen 3? Yeah, it feels good. It feels like a good prize for finishing that. Now, what you don't get a reward for is the Colosseum matches. 4 of these Colosseums are level 50, 2 of them are level 100, but your Pokemon are not set to that level when you go in. I think they can be under the max level, 50 or 100, but if they go over the level, they are completely ineligible. If your Pokemon are level 51, you can't use them in the level 50 Colosseums, meaning you straight up cannot use the Tyranitar in these. And if you're doing the level 100 Colosseums, you want to just grind all of your Pokemon to level 100, which is just the most fun thing you can do. Mount Battle balanced the opponents to your level. Why couldn't the Colosseums do it too? I don't understand, man. If you couldn't tell, this broke me. Now, the level 50 challenges range from pretty easy to kind of difficult, and I didn't do all of them on stream because it would just be kind of boring. But I got through them with a mix of my regular team and some of the other shadow Pokemon caught throughout the adventure, some of the good ones. I pumped some vitamins into them and they were able to get me through. But then comes the level 100 challenges. These are not your typical trainer battles. These Pokemon are made to be competitive. I don't know the specifics of their stats, but I would not be surprised if they had perfect IVs and were fully EV trained, because they also have competitive movesets and good held items. The Pokemon in the level 50 challenges also have these, but they're nowhere near the scale of the level 100 ones at all. I mean, a lot of them are unevolved Pokemon. I say this because there is no way I was going to beat these with my story mode team. Not only are some of them just not competitively viable Pokemon, but they weren't EV trained, they weren't IV bred, they have unideal natures, stuff like that. It wasn't getting anywhere. Regardless, I thought, maybe I could do it, who knows, it's level 100. So I spent the time grinding all of my story mode team to level 100, and immediately failed at the Colosseums. So with my story mode team unable to do the deed, I had to turn elsewhere. I had to build a competitive team. And I did it kind of poorly, if I'm being honest. I didn't fuck around with IVs, but I did good natures, items, moves, and I EV trained them all. You get fewer Poke Coupons for beating the Colosseums with legendary Pokemon, so I told myself, not going to use any legendaries in this. It would have made things a lot easier, though, but I gave myself a restriction, and when I do that, I stick to it.
I also learned while editing this monstrosity that this PDA screen has an indicator too for 100%. This little Pokeball here will turn gold once you've gone 30,000 total Poke Coupons, so that's the thing you got to do if you're doing 100%. But you should be fine to just get it naturally, because I think the battle mode coupons count towards that, and you get like 14,000 coupons for some of that, so you'll be fine if you're doing this.
With no legendaries, the team consisted of Jolteon, Starmie, Crobat, Swellow, Aggron, and Blissey, which may as well be a legendary. This team is far from ideal. I don't have a lot of knowledge about competitive, especially Gen 3, so I just kind of had to run with what I knew. My strategies were that Crobat was a little faster than Swellow, so it could Toxic Swellow, and so with Guts and Facade, Swellow could hopefully OHKO a lot of things. What I didn't know is that Crobat would miss Toxic all the time, and it would make me want to put a bullet through my skull. When it worked pretty good, but man did Crobat miss more Toxics than I thought it would. Crobat didn't really do much else aside from Shadow Ball the odd Alakazam, but that was helpful. Starmie was just an all-around fast attacker, and Aggron was supposed to be a physical wall, but I didn't realize that so many Pokemon in this mode know Earthquake and or Brick Break, so Aggron a lot of the time was pretty useless. Jolteon's gimmick was to Rain Dance and then Thunder with perfect accuracy, but Jolteon's kind of frail, so it was hard to get that off. Finally, there's Blissey, who does one thing, and it does that thing incredibly well. If Blissey is up against a special attacker that can be hit with Toxic, Blissey wins. Straight up. It's incredible. But this did require me to grind another set of 6 Pokemon to level 100, and I procrastinated that for about a year. You need properly trained Pokemon to take on these Colosseum matches. 24 of the 32 battles in this mode have at least one legendary in them. You might get lucky and not have to deal with them, but that's not something I would count on. You're gonna have to fight these legendaries. The tower went decently well, but the Ore Colosseum, oh boy, that was an interesting one. Throughout all of the Colosseum matches, if you knock a trainer out without losing any of your Pokemon, you get a continue that you can use in the future if you lose a battle. You can just pick up where you left off. Going into these last Colosseums, you can start them with 5 continues, but even with these 5 continues, this shit is brutal. It really didn't help that my team wasn't that good, and if a Swampert came out, I was screwed. I had no grass coverage anywhere. I don't know what I was thinking. Once in a while, I would get lucky and have a good counter to something like this team. I'd likely have to sacrifice Jolteon to get a Rain Dance up, but once that sand was gone, that team couldn't really do anything, and I swept through them pretty quick. But then you get hit with someone like Forgon, who uses a Dusclops with Imprison, which totally fucked me. Yes, Imprison. I don't think I've ever seen that move used competitively or even casually properly in my life. 4 of 6 of Forgon's Pokemon are quad weak to Ice, and Dusclops has Ice Beam. So as long as Dusclops is on the field, Imprison makes me not able to use Ice Beam on Starmie, which would have swept through, like, the rest of the team. It also had Protect, so I couldn't really Blissey stall it, and it's so bulky I had nothing for it. Needless to say, these took me quite a long time, but in the ruins of this team, one Pokemon stood above the rest, clearly as the Colosseum GOAT. Obviously, it's Blissey. I mean, come on, the thing is an absolute beast in the right circumstances, and none is more evident than the final battle of the double battle level 100 Ore Colosseum against Inity. Now, here is Inity's team. Thanks to Bulbapedia, I knew that he would always lead with either Kyogre or Groudon, so I led with Jolteon and Starmie. If Kyogre came out, it would set Drizzle, which would let me get off a Thunder with Jolteon, and then I would go for Thunderbolt with Starmie. Hopefully the two of them would just take Kyogre out right there. If Groudon came out, I would sacrifice Jolteon to rid Drought and set up my own Rain Dance, which then Starmie could surf Groudon out of there. Kyogre was the one that came out, so he went with Plan A. Slacking was the second lead alongside Kyogre, so I went with the Thunderbolt strategy. What I didn't know is that Kyogre would Protect, and Slacking would go for Earthquake, which would immediately kill Jolteon and Starmie. So out come Aggron and Blissey. Now, thankfully, Slacking is in its Truant turn, but Aggron immediately gets Water Spouted by Kyogre, dies, and so it's now Blissey versus 4 Pokemon in a 2-on-1 situation. But it's Blissey, and this girlie can do wondrous things. If you have Protect against a Slacking, it's effectively useless. As long as you Protect every turn it can attack, it can't do anything to you. So I Toxic Slacking, eventually it'll go down without having done anything to Blissey. Now Kyogre is a special attacker, and my Blissey has full HP and special defense EV investments, which are the stats it is incredible at, so Water Spout's not really going to do much to anything. For some reason, Kyogre goes for the Double Protect, which gets it out of sync with Slacking's Truant turns, and Slacking eventually Earthquakes it to death, which was fine by me. By the time Kyogre goes down to that Earthquake, Blissey is at full health thanks to the leftovers, and Slacking goes down that same turn thanks to Poison. Now, if Groudon were to come out here, I would be in big trouble. I would have lost. Point blank, period. But considering it's scripted to be a potential lead, I don't know if it can come out at this point. If someone wants to look into that, because I sure as fuck have no idea how, that'd be great. I would love to have confirmation that Groudon can't come out later in the fight if it doesn't come out of the lead. Nevertheless, we get the duo of Latias and Latios, 2 Pokemon that rely heavily on their special attack to do anything. Latias does have Calm Mind, and could then potentially do a lot of damage, so we Toxic it and target it sooner. From there, I use Soft Boiled to heal up, because a poorly placed crit could theoretically kill Blissey, but I Toxic the other one, so now it really is just a matter of time. It takes a while, but between Protect stalling, Soft-boiled healing, seismic toss damage, and all of that paired with toxic, Blissey successfully takes out 3 legendaries and a slacking while barely breaking a fucking sweat. Except for the time she almost died, but whatever. Godspeed, Blissey, we will see you in XD. To say I was elated in this moment is an understatement. After all that work and failures to get to that last battle, and beasted in 1 try after losing 3 Pokemon in 2 turns, was just so satisfying. And then I had to do it in the single battle one, where it was not nearly as cinematic as the double battle one, but I still beat it. Now the Colosseum challenges all say I'm a champ. That's literally all you get for this, aside from the coupons, and that is Pokemon Colosseum 100%. Except I also evolved all the Pokemon, but that's really Pokemon Colosseum 100%. Now, would I recommend that you do all of this too? Fuck no, man. God, no. That's a terrible idea. Play the story mode for sure. It's a lot of fun and so different from the regular Pokemon games that I highly recommend it. I think it's worth a play, especially since it should be coming to GameCube NSO any day now. But do the story, do the post-game, there's some fun fights in there, and if you really want a Gen 3 Ho-Oh, then go ahead and purify all the Shadow Pokemon and do Mount Battle. If you don't care about Ho-Oh, I wouldn't recommend purifying all the Shadow Pokemon. It's really tedious in Colosseum. That's something they definitely fix in XD. It's a lot better in that game. I wouldn't recommend doing the Colosseum battles in the battle mode either. All you get for it is a mark showing that you've completed it, and treating up a competitive team in Gen 3 is a real slog. If you want to do competitive, play the recent games, and if you want Gen 3 specifically, there's always Showdown you can use. Overall, my thoughts on this game haven't really changed. I still love it. I think it really still holds up. I mean, there's some tedium in here, but it's not required. I think everyone should give this game a shot. It's so different and unique, and those 2 words mean the exact same thing here, that I think it really holds up, and I'm glad to finally be able to say, after like 2 decades, that I have done everything there is to do in Pokemon Colosseum. Hi, welcome to the end of the video. If you got this far, hey, thank you for watching. I really do appreciate it. Make sure you hit the subscribe button so I can do more of these. And also, hit the like button if you enjoyed. That really does help out channels, get out there. It's not just the YouTubers blowing smoke up their ass. Hey, while you're here, you want a quick little story of how I got this game originally? So when I was like a kid, during bath time, we would bring in this old little CRT, and I would watch old Rugrats VHS tapes while I played with my bath toys. And on one of those tapes was an ad for Hey You Pikachu. So I just like saw Pikachu, and I was like, Pokemon, I like Pikachu, I want to talk to Pikachu, that sounds like a great time. And so I told my parents about it, and we didn't even have a 64. I had a GameCube, but we went to a store, and my parents, I had been talking to my parents about Hey Pikachu all the time, but they didn't know shit about Pokemon. They just saw the first Pokemon game that they saw, and they're like, is this one it? And I was like, yeah, but it was Colosseum, and obviously I had no idea what the hell games were. I was really fucking young, so that's how I ended up getting Pokemon Colosseum, and by extension XD, so that's, that's cool. Now, there are 2 things I wanted to talk about Colosseum, but I couldn't, and that's the bonus disc and the e-reader cards. But those things are expensive as hell, and I don't have the money for that. So, if you're wondering where those were, that's the story. Alright, thanks for watching, I appreciate it. Bye-bye!